Hello, human race with internet access. I am USMC Sax Oki, and today we're going to discuss how electric vehicles save you money, in list form, of course. Now, caveat before I begin, and I'm going to jump to my script. I've talked about personal finance and money some, my philosophy on earning, spending, and savings. I've talked about why people don't want EVs. I've talked about how my Chevy Volt is better than a Tesla Model 3 for a fraction of the price. If you haven't checked those out, please do. All of this comes together to form a basis for how I think and how I live. I like money. I'll call it moderate minimalist. Everything in moderation, including moderation. It's a good one. I love and advocate for electric vehicles, and I try to be aware of my impact from how I live on this planet, and more importantly, my impact on those around me. So going along with saving money and my minimalistic, some might say lazy attitude, let's list some ways and reasons electric vehicles save you money. Number one, and I'm getting really advanced, I'm going to pull up a little graphic for you guys. Yeah. Number one, fuel savings, all right? Now this can get complicated, but the bottom line is cost per mile is lower for kilowatt hours than it is for gallons of gasoline. Let's do some simple math, and I'm going to explain it, and then I'm going to pull it up on my board and go through it. According to the 2018 EPA Automotive Trends Report, the average fuel economy of vehicles driven in the United States is 25.4 miles per gallon. Let's round up to 26 miles per gallon for simplicity's sake. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the average price of a gallon of regular gasoline was $2.84 on April 22nd, 2019. So that data is about a week old, but just work with me. So let's say you drive a vehicle that runs on gas and gets 26 miles per gallon. You would spend $2.84 to drive that 26 miles, or about 10.9 cents per mile. Now let's switch to my Chevy Volt, which is rated at 98 miles per gallon E, or equivalent MPGs when running on electricity. But you know what? I'm not even going to get into that. MPG E rating is simply a metric for comparing EV's efficiency. It's not really a true way to estimate cost per mile for fuel. The way I calculate that cost is by how many miles per kilowatt hour I go and the cost per kilowatt hour. I average about 4.5 miles per kilowatt hour in my Volt. But let's just be conservative and say 4 miles per kilowatt hour for math and simplicity's sake. So to drive that same 26 miles, it takes about 6.5 kilowatt hours of electricity. Now, if you don't know this, your electricity bill is based off how many kilowatt hours you use every month. And here in Jacksonville, North Carolina, I pay approximately 11 cents per kilowatt hour. Now that's not taking into account to the taxes or fees, I'm just going by kilowatt hour costs. So 11 cents times 6.5, which is the amount of kilowatt hours I use to drive about 26 miles, equals 71.5 cents, or a little less than 3/4, to drive that same 26 miles, or 2.75 cents per mile. So for every 26 miles I drive in my Volt, and assuming all my numbers mentioned here remain accurate, I save about $2.12 every 26 miles I drive when compared to a gas ICE vehicle, internal combustion engine vehicle, that gets 26 miles per gallon. Simplifying the math even further, if you drive that 26 miles every day for a year, you would save $773.80 in fuel costs just driving 26 miles per day. So this was a very simple example, and obviously all these figures will change on any given day and depending on where you live. I should also mention that my 2013 Chevy Volt is relatively inefficient when using electricity compared to, say, a 2019 Tesla Model 3 or a 2019 Prius Prime, or actually the majority of new EVs out there. Okay, that's just how it is. It's a 5-year-old car essentially. So, for example, a 2019 Tesla Model 3, that's rated at 123 miles per gallon E, which essentially means the ability to drive more miles per kilowatt hour. It's just more efficient. Now compare the cost of electricity to fuel your EV compared to a truck or a larger vehicle that gets 20 or less MPG, and your savings increase substantially. It's just a matter of moving some numbers around and doing the math. Very simple math. Conversely, your savings will decrease when compared to, let's say, a Prius or something that gets 40 to 50 to 60 miles per gallon. Just running some simple math can give you potential savings. Side note, my Zero SR motorcycle gets 10 plus miles per kilowatt hour, so it's about as efficient as a vehicle that you can purchase. Alright, now let's go over that math on my board, and hopefully this works out. Alright, so like I promised, doing a explanation of what I just talked about. So on the left we have cost per mile of gas, saying we have a vehicle that gets 26 miles per gallon and the average cost of fuel is $2.84 a gallon. Your internal combustion engine vehicle gets 26 miles per gallon. For every 26 miles you drive, you pay $2.84, or about 10.9 cents, looks like that, in dollar form per mile. Alright, moving on to cost of electricity. I calculate based on miles per kilowatt hour, and I get about 4 miles per kilowatt hour in my volt. It's actually a little bit higher than that, but that's just a conservative estimate. It takes 6.5 kilowatt hours to drive 26 miles, so 26 miles divided by 4 equals 6.5 kilowatt hours. I pay roughly 11 cents, or 0.11 of a dollar per kilowatt hour in electricity cost. So you take that 6.5 kilowatt hours that I use to drive 26 miles times 11 cents equals 71.5 cents, or 0.715 of a dollar. So you pay that much to drive that same 26 miles, or 2.75 cents, which looks like that in dollar form, per mile. So you compare 10.9 cents per mile to 2.75 cents per mile. Alright, it's quite a bit of savings. So using these numbers, you would save $773.80 in fuel costs driving 26 miles per day in a year. So just using these basic numbers, obviously they can change. If you drove 26 miles a day for 365 days a year, you would save that much money compared to driving an ICE vehicle that gets 26 miles per gallon to driving a relatively inefficient electric vehicle like my Chevy Volt. Pretty simple math. You can change those numbers all around. You can, it depends where you live. Obviously, electricity here is pretty cheap. If you live in California, it's going to be much more expensive, but also fuel is going to be more expensive. So just a basic overview of how much money you can save on electricity and how much cheaper it is per mile to drive. Number 2, maintenance savings. Now this one is fairly obvious. Electric vehicles are simply less complicated than their gas-powered counterparts. In a pure EV, the only maintenance you have to deal with is tire rotation / replacement, windshield wiper fluid, windshield wiper replacement, battery coolant system fluid replacement, any little cosmetic things that pop up like they can on any car, brakes, and that's really about it. Now, your brakes should last much longer on an EV because you aren't using the actual rotors and brake pads as often because the vehicle slows down through regenerative braking, which is essentially the motor working backwards and generating that energy the car has built up moving forward to slow down. That's a really simple, dumb explanation, but essentially that's what happens. Bottom line is you aren't using your brake pads as much. Now, my Chevy Volt does have an internal combustion engine and most of the components that go along with one, but the maintenance on it has been minimal. In 3 years, I've had to change the oil once and the cabin air filter. Other than that, I've had to replace 3 tires. One got punctured and I don't think they were ever rotated, so I had to replace the 2 front tires and fix a little headliner thing. The headliner was coming loose and just like a couple like bolts or something that needed to be replaced. It cost like 20 bucks. Yeah, so in 3 years I've spent about $500 on maintenance in my Chevy Volt. I've had my Zero SR, which is a pure EV, for about a year and had to replace the rear tire because it got punctured by a nail. Again, like that's when you use something, like when you drive, eventually you're gonna run over a nail. That happened, it would happen on any other bike. It really sucked and it pissed me off, but so that was about $160 to have the tire replaced professionally. I don't do that shit myself, especially not on a Zero. So the main argument I've heard about EVs is that you'll have to replace the battery, right? The battery after so long, and it's going to be extremely expensive. Yeah, but replacing an engine or transmission or water pump or fuel pump or spark plugs or timing belt or alternator or exhaust or any of that shit is expensive as well. Plus, most EVs have at least an 8-year, 100,000 mile battery / drivetrain warranty, so that eliminates a lot of the fear, and I think it's an unwarranted fear. Another point I like to argue is that, let's say after 10 years you have to replace your car's battery and it's very expensive. I mean, you probably will just cut your loss and get another car, right? Stay with me, okay? Let's say you decide to replace that battery. Let me ask you this. How much did you spend in maintenance for that battery over 10 years? Probably nothing, right? How much do you spend maintaining an engine and its components in 10 years? See my point? If nothing major breaks, you're good, but for an engine, you have it for 10 years, you're probably going to have that big $1,500 to $2,000 repair, plus all the oil changes and regular maintenance. Again, I'm speculating, but engines are expensive to maintain. EV batteries and their drivetrains are not. Number 3. Cost of used EVs is very low and consistently lowering as more and more are produced and leased. So this point goes back to the whole, I like saving money so I don't have an expensive vehicle. Alright? All these savings assume that what you pay for your electric vehicle would be the same for what you pay for a gas-powered vehicle. If you spend $50,000 on a Tesla Model 3 compared to $16,000 for a nice used Chevy Volt, you're obviously not saving any money, and there really isn't a break-even point with fuel costs and maintenance since both are EVs. Yes, the Volt is technically a plug-in hybrid, I get it, or range-extended EV, but like I've talked about in previous videos, most people's daily commute is handled with sweet electrons in both vehicles. New Teslas or the Jaguar I-Pace, for example, are essentially luxury vehicles that just happen to be electric. So you pay a luxury price and aren't really saving money, as the break-even point when compared to, let's say, a Honda Accord in fuel savings would be like 20 years down the road before you even get close to breaking even on fuel costs. My point here is that there are a plethora of good used EVs like the Volt, Nissan Leaf, Ford Fusion Energy, Volkswagen e-Golf, etc. that sell for well under $20,000 or roughly equivalent to their used gas-powered brethren. Side note, there are even some used Model S's on Tesla's website that are now below $30,000. So if you spend the same money on an EV that you would on a gas-powered vehicle, your savings increase over every mile you drive and time owning the vehicle. And finally, number 4 reason how EVs save you money. Savings in time. Time is money. We'll keep this one short. With an EV, you save time by not having to pump gas, wait at the dealership or maintenance shop for your car to get fixed, wait for the engine to warm up or RPMs to level out after starting. My dad does this for some reason. Change the oil yourself if you do those types of things, etc. With an EV, you plug it in sometime before you go to bed at night. It takes about 20 seconds max. You unplug it in the morning before you leave. It takes another 20 seconds max. That's about it. You save time and you use that time to produce something or watch Netflix or make YouTube videos. Alright, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, listening. Please subscribe and like if you haven't done so, or dislike if you don't like my points. If you do dislike or you do like, please tell me why. Make a comment. I would appreciate it. Alright? If you haven't done so also, check out Learning Bear Podcast. It's some great environmental stuff. And as always, again, thanks for watching. So, live simpler, live smarter, live with more money. Saxo Key your life. See you next time.